Hello, everybody. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm Nash. I've been doing Radio Dead Air for ages. But in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who also works in IT. If you have tech questions for us, by all means, fire those off to requests@radiodeadair.com. How you doing, Mike?
Been better, been worse. I've been under the weather for a week or so. So
this fucking week, 72 hours later, backpedaled. Well, not all of the tariffs. Still got the 10% from
China.
From China. We're actually going to talk about that because that's causing issues already.
Yep. But yeah, the thing I'm curious about, because you don't see the news stories on this. You saw the news stories that said, 25% tariff being enacted on Canada and Mexico, and 10% on Canadian energy. And, you saw a news story about a main energy company that bought their energy from Canada saying, hey, we're going to raise your rates because of these taxes. And they called it out and they said they were taxes.
Yeah.
And I didn't see a follow-up story, not admittedly, I have been looking very hard, saying, hey, since he called these off, we're not raising your rates. Are they? I don't know.
I don't know. Because everything is a fucking disaster now. Hooray. This pissed me off on a personal level. Okay. The way YouTube works for most of us, for us plebes, is if I upload a video and I go, oh no, there's a glitch in this video, I can't overwrite that video. I have to
upload a whole new one.
Have to upload a whole new one to a new URL, and the views don't come over from the first one. Now, the problem with this is most videos get their views within about the first day or so. The most views, and if I upload it twice, those views I had get lost. And uploading one that doesn't get as many views screws up my metrics, which screws up the analytics.
Yes. Now, I will say there is a reason in general why they don't let you replace a video inline. And that reason is because what if I put up something that's extremely popular? It gets, for me, 500,000 to 1 million views. That's a lot of views. Mm-hmm. And then I replace it with something awful that now says it's got 1 million views and thousands of people commenting on it saying, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Or
that could be a problem.
Or what they could do is they could kind of undermine Google by doing their own rotating. They could upload it with one ad to begin with, and then if it gets popular, they can put up a new one with a new ad and just constantly sell ad space on their old backlog, which Google probably doesn't like. Now, the problem with this is sometimes I'm a one-man show. I'm doing all this myself. I edit, upload, do all these things. Sometimes I miss stuff. It just happens. So I have to get stuck with these screwed up versions on YouTube. And God, do people love not only pointing it out in the comments, but not reading the other replies. So they pointed out
9,000 people have already pointed out that you misspelled grammatical.
And I love that so much. I love that you people can't read a room. It's great. It's fantastic. Now, why am I complaining about this? Because those rules only apply to me. When a multi-billion-dollar country, us little folks, when a multi-billion-dollar company makes a giant fuck up, they get a do-over. So, Google has a Super Bowl ad for Gemini AI. And someone noted, I noted on Blue Sky that this whole thing with tech bubbles and Super Bowl ads, whenever they put up a Super Bowl ad, that year, inevitably, is when the crash comes.
Yeah, the next year. Yeah. Over the next year. I can.
There were Super Bowl ads for crypto. Remember fucking what's his fucking name? Fucking the Martian, fucking Jason Bourne, Matt Damon. Remember fucking Matt Damon saying, if you don't buy crypto, you ain't got no balls or crap like that?
I don't, but I'll take your word for it.
And then we had the year with the NFTs, and now it's the year with AI. So fingers crossed. But what happened here was Google AI used Gemini used Google AI, Google used Gemini AI to make up stats about, products and searches. And in this case, it was about cheese. And the stat it cranked out said that Gouda is the most popular cheese, 50 to 60% of the world's cheese production.
Consumption. I would assume that production and consumption are relatively the same. Otherwise, we're going to have lots of moldy cheeses kicking around. But I could be wrong.
That is, of course, wrong, incorrect. That stat is not correct. They used it in Gemini AI, as usual with these gibberish generators. It picked up this stat from a dubious website that was SEO optimized. No other place had,
I think.
Yeah, no other place had that figure except that one website. Just one website.
Hang on, I have to check to see if dubious.com is registered. Okay, there's a site there.
So yeah, just one website had this stupid stat, and the AI went, that is true. Because it's the top of the search results.
Yeah, because it didn't look. Now, I like cheese because I'm a white person. I would say cheddar is above Gouda. That's me. That's just my guess.
But what happened when someone noticed the error, Google uploaded a new version of the same ad with the incorrect information edited out to the same URL and pretended like it never happened. Which, of course, meant someone was going to notice, and we were all going to point and laugh at it.
Yes. Now, and I will say, unlike, the comment section on YouTube videos, this guy, when he noticed and published it, didn't have 9,000 people in the comments going, hey, did you notice? They took out the Gouda line. That's why they were there.
So, yeah. So this is the global stage where Google's Gemini AI was supposed to put its best foot forward. Everybody would see it on the Super Bowl. And now all we're talking about is, hey, it fucked up and Google's trying to hide it.
And the thing I don't get is, okay, now, I acknowledge that a lot of people watch the Super Bowl. I am going to pay attention to it for one and only one thing, and it is not the commercials this year. It is because I trolled a coworker literally yesterday saying, because he was wearing a Jets are one of the teams, right?
I don't know.
He was wearing the jersey for not the Chiefs, who I know are playing.
Oh, okay.
I said, going to be great when the Chiefs win on Sunday, isn't it? And he's like, so that's the only reason I'm paying attention to this one at all, because the Bears aren't in it, so it's not my game.
I know fuck all about football. All I know the Chiefs are is Taylor's boyfriend and a bunch of guys. That's it. That's all I know.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so the thing that gets me on this is they said, okay, we use Gemini AI to make this ad.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't even know if Gemini wrote the script and if Gemini created the person saying things in there. I haven't even seen the ad. I haven't looked. My question is, did they not go, historically, AI has made up a bunch of shit. Should we fact check our own ad before we put it into the world?
Seriously, how much money did you spend? Oh, no, well, probably didn't spend any money on it.
And either they didn't ask that question, and they should have, or someone asked that question and they were told, why? We know it's right.
Yeah, they fired all the people whose job it was to catch things like this. I find this perfectly appropriate. Their opportunity to make this be the big deal, and they completely fucked it up. So all anyone's going to talk about now is, hey, you fucked up.
Well, I won't say that. Something horrible could happen, or something amazingly funny could happen at the Super Bowl, and we'll be talking about that instead. Like if the field gets invaded by clowns in the first quarter, we're going to be talking about clowns. Let's face it, it'll be next week's big story.
In the world of these gibberish generators, Gemini AI is already an also ran. The hierarchy of them, of this stupidity, is OpenAI, and now DeepSeek, and then Gemini, and I think Meta's down there somewhere because fuck knows what all they're doing. They haven't actually put out anything, so...
And I would say OpenAI is going to quickly lose its first place because other people have gone, hey, that thing DeepSeek did, it looks like we can recreate that. We can do it without sending all this kind of data to China. And it can be done cheaply. And so if I were an investor in OpenAI, and I'm not, I'd be looking to sell soon. Try to get your money out before it's all gone. And you have to get money by suing, what's his name, Sam?
Well, speaking of stuff regarding this, all of this, there's been a lot of talk around the NVIDIA RTX 5090 release and the 5080 release. One of the things people noticed was the incredible lack of these cards. Everyone,
not many of them.
Yeah, tech tubers and reporting sites, all of them have been calling this flat out a paper launch. If you don't know what a paper launch is when a company says, yeah, we're releasing this product, and they technically do. But in fact, they only put out a tiny number of them. So technically, they launched the product, when in fact, nobody can buy the damn thing. And part of the reason why
there were even some tech reviewers who weren't able to get a copy to tech review.
Part of the reason people are speculating about this, there were like 10 times more 5080s available than 5090s. And people are speculating the reason is the 5080 is a little over half or under half the die size, the silicon die size of the 5090.
Yeah.
So what people were speculating was the yields on the 5080 at half the die rate must be much better than the 5090.
I would absolutely believe that. It's a harder chip to produce, so they're going to have more failures, more things that don't test out. And because it's half the die size, I don't think you could use a cut down 5090 to make special 5080s, could you?
No, but we're talking about the overall, and in that would also mean, since Blackwell is the architecture, and the AI accelerator is going to be using Blackwell as well. That means they're probably having a bear of a time producing those.
Oh, darn.
But they're already running into problems with the 5090. There are reports, and it's been replicated by some tech tubers, Jace 2 Cents, and another one replicated this error, Boosted Media. Both were able to recreate this. That some glitch with driver
between
version,
the bias and the drivers.
Yeah, some glitch between them. Driver version 57216 was causing the GPUs to stop outputting video altogether. And some people were claiming they were actually bricked. Which in a sense they kind of were, because the driver was fucking it up that badly. What happened is, if you installed 57216, and you had a previous NVIDIA card, and then took that card out and put in the 50 series card, but did not wipe your drivers and do a fresh install of the driver, you just held over from the previous card to the new one, then the 50 series card went, my give up.
Yeah. And so basically, when I called it a flagship product a moment ago, that meant that their flag meant death. Because some of these cards are not responding after reboot.
The way that they found to fix it, this works is, and this is weird because Boosted Media, once this problem happened, it wasn't showing up in the BIOS, like not the motherboard BIOS.
It's not showing up in the, so the card is not responding saying, yeah, I'm here, which is unusual in the BIOS because it's very low level drivers just saying, hey, what are you? Oh, you're a video card. Fantastic.
Apparently the driver was screwing something up in the card's ROM or the card, the read-only memory, the firmware on the card. It's the firmware on the card. Something about the driver was goofing it up. The solution they found is you use Display Driver Uninstaller, which is a third-party application. It's free. You can find it on Guru 3D's website. Display Driver Uninstaller doesn't just uninstall your display driver. It wipes every fucking trace of it from the system as though you never installed that driver. It goes to the registry. It goes through all your directories. It gets the fuck rid of it.
Yeah,
what you do is
really good.
And what you have to put the card back in, but you'll have to boot from the integrated graphics. And if your GPU doesn't have integrated graphics, you're going to find, if your CPU doesn't have integrated graphics, you're going to have to find another GPU.
Well, you might still have your previous NVIDIA card.
Which
means you have to be careful, or you're going to just repeat the whole procedure again.
What Boosted Media managed to do was doing Display Driver Uninstaller after booting off the integrated video, then putting the card back in, going back into Windows, installing the driver, and rebooting. The card came back to life. So NVIDIA did something weird here with the driver that appears to have goofed up the firmware, which is impressive. That's the firmware. What we're talking about is just like your motherboard has a BIOS, your graphics card has one too. And it communicates with Windows, it communicates with the system, it tells the system what card this is. It also limits voltages in some cases and other stats on the card. It defines the card. And the driver in Windows looks at that firmware and goes, oh, that's what you are. Okay, we're going to play together. But apparently this driver went, oh, that's what you are. And somehow the firmware lost its mind. And it didn't know what it was anymore. That's wild. I've never seen anything like that before.
I want to say I have, but it was years ago and I don't remember all the details. It happened when we were trying to update the BIOS on a single board computer.
There's also been a couple reports of this happening on 40 series cards, but I don't know if anyone's replicated that yet. So just be aware, if you are on a 40 or 50 series NVIDIA card, or heck, maybe any NVIDIA card, you have two options here. Skip driver 572.16. That's one option. But if you're on a 50 series, you can't skip, because if you want the multi-frame gen, this is the driver that unlocks multi-frame gen. It won't work without this driver. So what you'll have to do is make sure you wipe the driver you currently have completely off your system, put in the card, let it use the basic Windows VGA driver, and then install the NVIDIA driver. In fact, that's the best practice for whenever you get a new video card. One of the problems is, with NVIDIA and AMD, and now I guess Intel as well, having a universal driver, one installer that will work for every card, has kind of messed with people's perceptions of drivers, and they're like, oh, well, this one will work on this one too.
Well, and also part of the problem, of course, is that, and this it's not just video cards. This happens with plenty of other software or other hardware and drivers, is that they don't provide robust and accurate cleanup tools.
Yeah,
when you're upgrading versions. So I saw this a lot with certain antivirus products whose founder was briefly questioned for murder before he died in another prison.
Don't forget the meth, Mike. There was meth, Mike.
Wait, he's dead. You can't defame the dead.
You can't defame the dead, yeah.
So McAfee products were famous for, you've got the new version, not just antivirus updates, not just definition updates, but the new version. And you say, I need to uninstall the old version before I can put the new version on here. And you don't install it, and it would mostly uninstall, but there'd be other pieces there. And then you
Adobe
go to McAfee's website, and they'd say there'd be a separate product there for a complete uninstaller. And I'm like, why isn't that built into the updater to just completely uninstall? Why do I have to wait until things have gotten screwed up? Oh, have you tried the uninstaller? No, put that in there.
Adobe has the same problem. And this, even like, you have to use a third-party product that's not from AMD or NVIDIA to fix this problem. Yeah. McAfee's dead. Yes, if you want to really get weird, go and check his YouTube channel. He left some strange shit behind. It's kind of...
He did leave us that funny video of how do you uninstall a McAfee product.
Yeah. It's fucking wild. So yeah, just because all of the cards will work from the same installer does not mean you can just leave the driver on there and let it run. It's a best practice whenever you're installing a new video card, even if it's from the same manufacturer, NVIDIA to NVIDIA, AMD to AMD, always wipe your drivers first and install them fresh. It doesn't take much time, and it will spare you headaches like this. This is why it's only happening to some people and not all. So we'll see how this gets fixed and dealt with going forward. It's a mess because it can affect it. Apparently, it appears to affect the BIOS on the cards, which I don't know if NVIDIA is going to come up with a special way to address this, because they're going to have to do something. It's a mess.
My concern there is if they can do it accidentally, then someone else could do it maliciously.
Possibly. But they'll have to get one of the cards first. And that's going to be a little bit of a problem.
Although there is that special model of the card.
The D.
It's like the gold-plated one that you can only buy. I don't even know where you can buy it.
So, in Newegg, which I was hardly disappointed in Newegg for this, because I use Newegg a lot.
And I've said for years that they're one of the best tech store companies out there, and so this disappointed me.
So Newegg took it upon themselves to slap a 10% price increase on the RTX 5090 and 5080, and they tweeted, because they're still on Twitter for some reason, that the GPUs came from China.
Which they didn't.
No. Specifically because of 8 years previously, Trump, and you know what, to some degree also Biden, we've been having tariff issues with China for years now. So what many manufacturers did, AMD, NVIDIA, I think even Intel to some degree, is they have moved largely moved the final assembly, and what really counts for a product to be from China is a certain percentage of it has to come from China, even if it's assembled elsewhere. So what companies are doing is they're only getting absolutely what's necessary for the components from China. They're sending it to Taiwan and Vietnam and other countries, actually assembling them there to make the product technically from Vietnam, from Taiwan, to avoid the tariffs coming over here. None of the cards specifically come from China. In fact, in the case of NVIDIA can't ship the cards, the GPU itself, to China. They're not allowed to send 5090s to China. The only class they can send is the 5090D. They're not even allowed to send the bare, just the GPU without the card itself. But here's Newegg saying that the price hike was because of tariffs. This is their statement. Some graphics cards have increased due to a number of factors that are unfortunately out of our control, and those situations have been confusing and frustrating. But it's important to know what we are doing in our power to build stability around the situation. Additionally, we are building a new drawing system for hot items. Yeah. Newegg replied with
lottery system.
Newegg replied with, our GPUs are from China, and they managed to add a 10%. And we're talking 10% on a 5090 and a 5080. We're talking the price goes from, like, Asus had a 5090 out, a 5080 out for $1,350, which is $350 above the MSRP for the base model. Well, when you're talking about that much money, 10% brings the price to $1,485,
which is a significant jump. That is the difference from someone going like, I might get this card, I'm not getting this card.
Even worse, MSI Gaming Trio 5080 went from $1,220 to $1,430, which is actually a 17% jump. And
I didn't do that math in my head. It's in the article.
Yeah. And the Gigabyte Aorus Master RTX 5080 went from $1,299 to $1,479, which is a 13% increase. Similar price hikes among the 5090s.
Now, hopefully this is, I would hope that this was just some miscommunication inside Newegg, and that they're going to roll stuff back when someone goes, Gary, why did you raise the prices on these? Oh, because of tariffs. They're not affected by the tariffs, Gary. But we don't know. It's a disappointing move by Newegg, which has historically been very good site.
But fortunately, they have apparently walked it back.
Oh, good.
Or tried to. I don't know if they walked the prices back.
They deleted their it's from China tweet. That's what I've seen. Well, that's what I've seen in the article, since I don't go to that site anymore.
So, yeah, this is... We're going to see a lot of this, I think. This happens here, too, where even something that's not affected by the tariff, we'll have a company go, oh, tariffs, man, we had to raise prices. I don't know. I'm sorry.
And it's because in a lot of cases, not all cases, I'm the only reason I'm not blanketing here is because there are probably some good corporations in the world. I don't know of any others off the top of my head.
Ben and Jerry's, maybe.
They stopped making Doonesbury sorbet, and I will never forgive them for that. Back when I lived in South Carolina, there was an energy price hike, and the company that managed the apartment building I lived in said, oh, prices are going up because of this energy price hike for the laundry rooms and for this thing and this other thing. And then within the space of 3 days, the energy price went back down to normal, but the prices didn't drop.
Go back down to normal. Yeah.
No. And then 4 weeks later, there was another energy price spike. And they said, oh, because of this energy price spike, the prices in the laundry room and this thing and this other thing are going to go up. And we're like, you just raised those. And
I will say one company I've dealt with that has been doing having to talk about the tariff stuff is Mouser Electronics, which I kind of understand on this one because a large number of their components. We're talking Mouser tends to sell individual component parts, like the stuff directly from China, like resistors, capacitors.
Exactly. The things that Nash and I are old enough to have gone to Radio Shack before to get.
Like I just got these because some of the LEDs in my system are dying. So I bought these wholesale strips of LEDs to replace them with. Yeah. Because it's technically cheaper. However, since these are from China, Mouser added part of the bill was a 10%. They separated it out and they specifically said, this is the tariff on this item. They specifically pointed out you're paying more because of this tariff. And I think that's really nice because not only is it being upfront about what's going on, they're also putting some pressure on politicians that way because people are like, I have to pay this fucking extra for a fucking tariff. Whose fault is this? Yeah. So I appreciate that.
And in the same vein, not tariffs, but price hikes. In case you missed it out there, folks, Waffle House has added a surcharge for eggs.
Egg.
Now, to be fair, that doesn't affect me for two reasons.
Hey, buddy.
There's not a Waffle House in California, which is a crime. And two, when I go to Waffle House, I only ever got chicken melts. So,
yeah, but you got a Denny's.
It's not the same thing, man.
Do you know? Oh, just out of a weird one. Do you know that that diner Denny's we had here in Charleston, the really cool one?
Yeah,
it's gone.
Ah,
it got fucking torn down because the fucking owner apparently got in debt to the mafia. I'm not joking. I'm fucking not joking. The owner of the fucking Denny's got in debt to the mafia, and there was a whole big thing, and they couldn't pay for it. And someone else bought the property, and yeah, they raised the diner Denny's, which sucks because it was so cool.
So in a similar vein that doesn't involve the mafia, do you know why for the longest time in Columbia, South Carolina, there were no Burger Kings?
Why?
The guy who had the franchises for Burger King in Columbia, literally inside the city limits, he had all the franchises. And he decided one day, yeah, I'm not going to pay the franchise fees anymore, but I'm going to still call myself Burger King. He got so sued.
Why, yeah. All right, now we're going to answer some of your tech questions tonight. If you got them, you can send them to request@radio.air.com, or you can also put them in the YouTube comments. Let's see where we're going to start tonight. Not that one. That's last week's. Where is this week's? Okay. This is from Tom. He says, hi, Nash and Mike. I'm putting together a Pentium 2 retro PC because I scored a good deal on old motherboard and CPU, and now I'm just adding the other stuff. I want to add a real era-appropriate floppy and CD-ROM, but I'm not sure how to refurbish them. Do you have any advice or guides to tell me how to get them into good working order? Thanks, Tom. P.S. Also, any tips for IDE hard drives as well?
Okay, well, so my first thought on retro gaming is, well, refurbing stuff is nice and it can be fun. There's some things that it's just not worth refurbing. I gotta say, a floppy drive is on there.
Well, if you want an era appropriate retro PC, you want the floppy drive. They don't make them anymore. So
you can still find them, but it's hard.
All right. These are not actually that difficult to refurbish. They're just tedious. This was from an era where things were actually made to be taken apart. They not often, but they were actually built in such a way they were snaps, there were screws, there were tabs, they were made in such a way you could completely disassemble it, more or less. However, and this applies to any electronics if you're going to try and replay yourself, but you don't have any guides for it, you don't have to take it apart. There is a technique to doing it, and it's the resistance technique. What you do is, as you go through, number one, you take pictures. Constantly take pictures while you're disassembling something that you don't have any other. Right.
Yes, and this is so you know how to put it back together. Go, oh, wait a second. I didn't take this picture. Does this piece go here? Just go here. Because both places it looks like it fits.
What I mean by resistance method is you try to find the point where the two pieces are not parting and you meet resistance. Stop pulling, don't start yanking it. When you meet resistance, that's when you have to stop, look around and inspect. It's kind of like a puzzle. It's kind of like you're trying to figure out you inspect where else it could be attached. Never use excessive force. If something says, don't pull me apart, because that's when you hit resistance, that's the system saying, don't pull me apart. I'm attached somewhere. If you pull, you're going to cause damage. You look for snaps, you look for tabs. Sometimes in some of these older things, they would put metal tabs through slots and bend them down. You'll have to look for stuff like that. Once you get the floppy drive open, you're going to need two things, probably, and a Q-tip. You're going to need isopropyl alcohol, because one of the things that is often in these old floppy drives causes a problem is the head reader. The magnetic reader gets garbage on it over time, dust and debris and other crap. Quick way to solve it is just lift up the head. And you'll find pictures of this online. And rub that, to put some isopropyl alcohol, 90% or higher, on that Q-tip and just rub it underneath the reed head, cleans it right off. The other point of contention with these that happens quite often is the ejection mechanism. They used grease on these, and that grease gets old and dries out and turns gummy, and then the motors won't move. So the way you get around that is, number one, use the isopropyl alcohol and try your best to clean off all the old grease. Then you're going to want to get white lithium grease. It's preferable not to get it in a spray can, because that, in this instance, would just be a mess. You can get around it, though. If you can get white lithium grease, not just white lithium grease, that's usually preferable. But if you can't, I recommend taking the spray can and your Q-tip outside, coating it with the spray can in such a place where you can make a mess and it's not going to affect anything, then go back inside and recoat the dry pulleys that you saw before with the lithium grease. That will replace the grease that was already on there effectively.
Now, for parts, you might have to hit up eBay. I'm going to say, if you need to replace certain parts.
Now, I know with CD-ROM drives, one of the main issues you have, CD-ROM drives also have a reed head that's just a laser. Clean it the exact same way you do with the floppy drive. However, the open and shut mechanism on a lot of old CD-ROM drives, they use gears, but those gears are plastic.
Yep, and they wear down.
Well, not just wear down, they undergo the brittle plastic syndrome. They get brittle, they can shatter. So what you might look for is, if those are busted, you may look for 3D printed replacements for those gears. You'll probably need calipers to figure out size, unfortunately. Or you'll have to just look for a replacement drive, because fortunately, the CD-ROM drives are plentiful out there. So if you find one that's not working, you can get another.
Yeah, you might not be able to go full age-appropriate version, but
as for the IDE hard drives, that's a no-no. Never open a hard drive. Even if it's broken and you're trying to get something off of it, never open a hard drive in anything but a clean room. If you do not have access to a clean room, i.e. a room that's specifically designed to not have any dust or particulate in it, if you don't have access to a clean room, don't open a hard drive.
No.
Even a tiny speck of dust on those magnetic platters can ruin them. Now, in this instance, finding old hard drives that are still in working order gets much harder because you can't repair the motors, and once they run down, they run down. In that case, I would look for IDE to flashcard readers. Those tend to be fairly popular. You just use an SD flash or whatever type of what type of flash ROM or flash media cards you can use. There are a couple of different options out there. The trouble is, back in that time, the BIOS on the motherboards could be a little tricky when it came to hard drives. So it might work, it might not. It's going to depend entirely on that motherboard and what you got on it. So that's
when we say tricky, sometimes they will not recognize a drive above a certain size. Sometimes they were, I won't say hard coded, but this basically they said this is the categories of things we recognize, and if you're not in that category, they go like, I don't know what you are, I'm not going to access you.
Oh, do you remember Master Slave?
Yep.
Fuck, that was a pain in the ass.
So for those who do not know what we're talking about, the IDE cable, which was this wide ribbon cable, had two connections for drives. And you had to set a jumper on each drive if you connected two to it, saying which was the master drive and which was the slave drive. And it even had to be on the cable in a certain order that matched, as I recall. But it's been years since I've had to deal with those, so I may be recalling incorrectly.
Pain in the ass. I think the master had to be on the furthest connection and the slave had to be on the secondary connection. And it was just pain in the ass. Of course, SCSI was worse. SCSI, you had to terminate the SCSI connection, and if you didn't, it would stay open.
SCSI was easier in the sense that you go, I have this on here, then I've got this on here, then I've got this on here, then I've got this here, and then at the end, I've got a terminator, so it loops back around.
All right, next one is from Dana. She says, or he, you didn't give me pronouns, so I'm sorry. I'll just call you Dana. Hi, guys. Hoping this one is quick. I've been given a hand-me-down 1440p monitor from my uncle. It's only 75 hertz, but it works and it was free. But I'm still trundling along with a GTX 1660 Super, and I was hoping of getting something capable of driving the monitor but not busting the bank because we're on a limited budget. Any recommendations? Thanks for everything, Dana. Right now, Intel's B580 for $250 if you can get it for that price. The Arc B580 for 1440p gaming, working really good. It works a treat.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Now that price may be a bit hard to find. You can certainly get it around probably $350, but if you can get it cheaper, get it cheaper.
Don't buy it at $350. Don't buy it. If you're buying an Arc B50 at $350. You can get at that point, you'd be looking at an AMD card at that price range.
True.
Because if you have to spend more than $250 for the B580, it's not worth it. You're losing whatever. The trade-off you're making in paying less for the B580 is the drivers are still a little glitchy with older games. And there's some games that it has issues with. But what makes up for that is the price.
Yes.
The price is very good. If you can't get it for that price, that defeats the entire purpose of getting the B580. B570 is good-ish, but there's really, at $220, it's not a good enough deal in my estimation. The B570 only makes sense at under $200, honestly. If it at $220, it's like, nah, you're wasting my time. So that'd be
that price is hard to come by right now. So if they can't get that, what should they get at a $300 price point?
All right, let me see what AMD has. It's going to be AMD because yeah, NVIDIA is just terrible budget option right now. Let's see, GPUs for, I'm just going to look at, just get an idea of where the prices are right now. The Radeon 7000 series, see what the prices are looking like. You might actually even want to wait on that because we're this close to the 9070 coming out.
Which could drop prices again significantly.
You can get a 7600 for around $250, $259, but that only comes with 8 gigs of RAM, so I don't feel like that's a good enough value there.
And it is head and shoulders above what they do have.
Yeah, that's true, but 8 gigs at this point is just the 7600 XT comes with 16 gigs, and you find that around $360 if you can stomach that. That's going to be a pretty good, got some longevity to it. Is the 6700 still available?
Oh yeah.
Let's see what the 6700 and 6700 XT are looking like right now. Yeah, we got 6700 XTs for 16 gigs, but those are also around $350. So the 7600 XT with 16 gigs around that same price looks pretty good to me. This price is there. They have some refurb 7600s for, let me see. Yeah, Newegg, but Newegg's got a bunch of the refurbs for around $250. It will come with a warranty. I'll put it that way.
I mean, the shenanigans they pulled with the pricing aside, Newegg has still been really good about returns and warranties.
These are all out of stock. Dang, not in stock. Those are gone. So, yeah. Regardless, for NVIDIA, let me see what NVIDIA is looking like right now. It would either be a 30 series or 40, like a 3060 Ti or 4060. Let's see what those are looking like right now. Not my first choice, I will say. Let's see, lowest price, a 4060 8 gig for 300, but it's that RAM limitation that's just dirty.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get 16 gig of RAM, go for it.
Yeah. So
Sapphire is a good brand name with AMD cards, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Sapphire's, they're well known. Okay, this one's from Jamie R. I think I know what's going on with this. Maybe you have an insight on this too, Mike.
Okay.
Hi, Nash and Mike. This one's weird. I have an old set of Logitech PC speakers with a subwoofer, and I like them, and I've used them for a long, long time. They're model Z263, and they're 2.1 speakers. They're not bad. They're not kind of nice. However, recently, when I shut down my computer and turned the speakers off, they make this weird noise. I don't know how to describe it, except to say it sounds like I stepped on a Smurf. It's this kind of squeal that trails off. How do you know what stepping on a Smurf sounds like? They also seem like they're taking longer to power on than they used to, because I never hear the Windows startup sound anymore, even though I've tested it with headphones and I know the computer's making the noise. But once Windows is started, the computer starts making sounds like normal. Do you have any ideas, or is it time to get new ones? Thank you, Jamie R.
My first thought is capacitor going, but
that was my thought too. This has symptoms,
which has been a recurring theme since the beginning of the year.
Speakers aren't just speakers. Computer speakers, anyway. They actually include a little amplifier in them. Well, little in some, bigger in others, depending. And the amplifier takes the sound from the computer and outputs it to the speakers. Those can have capacitors in them. And if it's got an electrolytic and that electrolytic is going bad, that could be giving off the symptoms you're talking about. That means it's not charging quickly enough, and it's taking the capacitor longer to achieve the full charge before it's interacting properly with the rest of the system, and then the amplifier comes up.
And I have these are 15-year-old speakers, so this is quite possible.
You can disassemble these. Then you'll have to. I'm trying to think which part has the amplifier, because in the 2.0 speakers, the amplifier is normally in the right speaker, but in the 2.1, they tend to put them in the subwoofer.
I think it would have to be whatever has the direct connection from the computer or other AV equipment.
And that's the subwoofer. Yeah. The subwoofer is where you plug in the green wire into. Let me have some look at pictures of these. Yeah, they plug into the subwoofer in the back, and the speakers plug into the subwoofer. These are nice looking speakers, though. Let me show you folks over here. This is not bad. They're similar to what I have. In fact, I've got 5.1. These are actually a little bit nicer than mine. Even though they're only 2.1. When I say 5.1, that means there's 5 speakers and a subwoofer. 2.1 means 2 speakers and a subwoofer. That's in case you wanted to know. Those are nice little set of speakers. That's a nice subwoofer and whatnot. I'm willing to bet the amplifiers inside the subwoofer probably can get to it. You're just going to have to, if you feel comfortable replacing a capacitor, you're going to need some sort of soldering iron and whatnot. Yeah, all right. I can actually show you right here. Great. I got a picture.
And yes, apparently I'm looking it up right now. The power supply and amp boards are both built into the subwoofer.
This is the back panel of the subwoofer, and that's not the right thing. That's not it. There we go. This is the back panel of the subwoofer, and you can see right there those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. I'm willing to bet that entire panel comes out as one piece, and the amplifier is on that. So you should be able to, if you feel comfortable with it, or you want to take it to a repair shop. I don't know how much they're going to charge for that, and you're going to have to determine if it's worth it for you. Because you can get newer ones. 2.1s are not hard to come by. 5.1s are getting harder to come by these days because they don't make them for desktop for some weird reason. But 2.1s are a lot easier to come by. So, or even, a sound bar or something if you want to give that a shot. So you're going to have to determine if you feel comfortable with the soldering aspect of it. You'll find if there's a bad capacitor, look for one that's visibly. Go ahead.
I say it's going to be noticeable.
Yeah, it's visibly bulging out of the top. It's going to look like a little can with a bulge on top. That's gone bad. It needs to be replaced. You can read what value it is on the side, and just take pictures of it. You'll get an idea of which direction it needs to go back in. So it's up to you how much it's going to be worth it. It's not going to get better. It's just only going to get progressively worse until eventually it's going to stop working altogether. So you can refix it. You're just going to have to be, all right. We got two more came in. Oh, good.
Okay.
This is from Lady Lunar Satine. Simple question that I worry may involve some work. I noticed that the right stick on my one old PS4 controller is starting to send signals to keep turning as if the stick has been shifted one way when turned on. While I've been able to correct this for short periods of time by giving it some intended input, it keeps happening. How hard involved is this to correct? Let me have a quick look.
So we've talked about this before, and it's called joystick drift.
Yeah.
And part of it depends on how they made the joystick.
There are guides to repairing this on YouTube, I've seen. You can take it apart, and you can, let me see let's have a quick look here and see what's involved. If it's a component that needs to be replaced or if it's something you can do yourself. No soldering involved. Okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah. All right, that's okay. Good. I'll show you. Yeah. This is not hard to do. You may have to get some parts for it. Is this a cleaning thing or is this a? All right, you're gonna have to get some replacement parts here. Let me put this over here so we can look at it together on the YouTubes. Let's see here.
Which controller did they say this was for?
PS4. Yeah, that's how you can tell. You can disassemble it. You're just gonna have to. These little. You see those green things on the sides? You bend them out, bend those outwards, and you replace that sensor wheel. And you're gonna have to look up a place to find a new sensor wheel. I have to order one of those. But yeah, you see there, it's prying it open, bending it back, and putting in a new wheel. Don't press too hard. Be gentle with it. Well, yeah, there's a guide online. So yeah, it's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of getting the bits. And I'm pretty sure you can look those up and find them. This is from XQ Gaming, by the way, if you'd like to look that up. Thank you for putting that on the internet. I don't know if you'll ever hear that, but I'll link to it. I'll link to that in this video when I put it up on YouTube. All right, so yeah, there you go. That's fairly straightforward. Cool. And last one's from Warhog Demon. Schadenfreude question. This is from Blake. I have, while I'm eagerly awaiting the AI bubble bursting, I want to temper my expectations. We can't predict the future. I'm hoping AI data servers will become too expensive to run and shut down so we can stop wasting resources. I'm hoping products like ChatGPT will go the way of Google Glasses. Are these realistic dreams or will AI likely remain in the background like Bitcoin and crypto?
Okay, so parts of it will absolutely remain in the background.
Yeah.
The parts that should survive is a thing called iterative AI, and the part that shouldn't survive is the part that's called generative AI. Iterative AI is the thing you've heard me talk about in the show before, where I say something like, they train it on a bunch of images of cancer, and then they say, hey, here's images you haven't seen before. Is there cancer in it? And if you have 4 or 5 models working simultaneously on the same images, suddenly, even if the best one of them is only 80%, suddenly you got 5 of them working on the same images. That goes up to, a 99% check. And that's good stuff.
When is this going to, the generative AI, the problem here is this is a bubble. And much like the .com bubble before this, much like the credit default swaps with the mortgage crap before this, what's happened is a lot of money went into this. As it was coming in, the first people in pulled their money out. And then more money came in and they pulled their money out. What they're waiting for right now on ChatGPT, they want to go public eventually. That means retail investors will be able to dump their money into OpenAI, and the venture capitalists who put their money in first want to use, it's the bigger fool theory. They want to use the money coming in. There's a lot of finance stuff involved here. Suffice to say, the operating costs are unsustainable. Ed Zitron has been following this closely. You need to follow him on Blue Sky. He has a newsletter. He's incredibly informative about this. Long story short, OpenAI is running at a loss. They are not making a profit. They're going to run at a $10 billion loss this year at least. This thing is leaking money and does not have a profitable use case. Is the cart entirely before the horse?
In fact, it's so unprofitable that in certain countries, the AI bros are going in front of those governments and saying, hey, can you pass a law that says we can use all these people's copywritten stuff for free? Because if we got to pay for it, we're never going to be profitable. And the creative elements in those countries, and I'm mostly UK here and parts of EU,
fucking kid starver,
are going, no, they need to pay us, and here's why. And they're pointing out that, and the creatives are pointing out that they've largely already stolen from them. They've been stolen from, and that they're just trying to say, they're trying to get ahead of the lawsuits is what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Regardless, it's just long story short, it's going to take a while, but they can't keep going like this, not indefinitely. There will be AI stuff left, but not to the degree we're seeing right now.
And there'll be a period, I think, right after the crash, where stuff gets rebranded right before release of, oh no, this doesn't use AI. It uses this other thing. It uses this term we just made up because we don't want the stink of AI on us anymore.
The trouble is the crash is going to have spillover effects to other parts of the IT and technology, mainly because investors are dumb as dirt and they don't understand that technology is not one big bucket, that it's a bucket full of technology. If one goes bad, the whole thing must be bad. Throw it all away. They don't understand that different companies do different things and they're not related. Like when the .com crash hit, everything crashed. Fucking Intel crashed and shit. You know, like not off the face of the earth, but all stocks just went whoom. Even though Apple's like, what the fuck did we do? We just made the computers. What the fuck? So they simply cannot make the return on investment. They simply cannot make this money back because there is no viable
Gamers
product.
Tavern shows says in the channel, the part of the death knell will be them locking in contracts that they have that they've been signing like mad lately, saying, oh yeah, we'll provide AI to every student in your university for this much money. And then when everything crashes, they'll go, we still want our money.
Yeah, well, not like universities can afford that shit anymore right now. Essentially, we're not far away from it in terms of time. It's a matter of when. This year, maybe next year, more likely, but it's not sustainable, not long term. And another thing that's making it possible is when the stock market's doing well, venture capitalists are more willing to gamble. Yep. If the stock market starts doing poorly, they're going to pull their money back and they're going to go to safe shit. They're going to go to gold. They're going to go to T-bills. They're going to go to stuff with long-term returns that are safe. They can weather, everything else crashing in the meanwhile. Once there is less money to gamble with, you're going to see stuff like crypto start crashing. You're going to see stuff like AI. The venture capitalists are not going to have the money to put into it. And that's when things are going to start going off a cliff. We'll see what happens. I'm not a prognosticator, but that's just what to look for. This stuff can't endure forever simply because it doesn't have a viable use. They keep trying to make fetch happen. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. We'll be back next week, Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you've got tech questions for us, you can send those to requests@radio.air.com or simply put those into the YouTube comment section. In the meanwhile, for Mike and myself, we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.